Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have some more Star Citizen news to go over today. We got the sales page information for the brand new Kruger L-21 Wolf. We know the pricing on it. We know some of the other stats. We have a Q&A to go over. So we're going to take a look at the sales page and the Q&A for a few minutes today. We also have the official announcement that 4.3 is going live later today. By the time you see this video, it'll probably only be a couple of hours away. So you want to make sure to, if you haven't already, you want to make sure you have all of your ships claimed and stored. You may want to remove the components from it that you don't want to lose. I've seen that can sometimes help preserve them across patches. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at everything that we know about the Kruger L-21 Wolf. So here we are on the sales page for the L-21 Wolf. We first can see there's kind of, I'm pretty sure this is a concept art drawing of the ship that they probably worked on to make it look like this. I'd say it looks pretty darn close to how this looks. And again, it's very, very sleek. I do like how there's a little bit of a mix of the very sleek lines up towards the front of the ship. And then you get a little bit, you still have some of those sleek lines in the back, but you get a little bit more of the exposed engine parts, the tubing, the pipes and stuff, and on these side engine pods as well. So it looks very, very nice. But now let's go ahead and go through the actual sales page. So we'll scroll down here. We have Timeless Style. A symphony of past and present, Kruger's inspiring new ships proves its time away has only elevated its pursuit of elegance, quality, and bold design. This light fighter bridges the gap between the original aerial warfares of the 20th century and the intergalactic heroes of today, reinforcing the adage that sometimes the old ways are still the best. Very cool. We have a picture there, I think leads into the video, probably for like the ship trailer itself. There was a little, like a minute and a half trailer for it. Nice as always. They always do pretty good with those ship trailers. And then we go down a little further. At Kruger, we believe in showing you the perfection in every piece is not just a slogan, but our guiding star. We began life almost 4 centuries ago as a custom parts manufacturer serving such industry giants as RSI and Behring. We built our reputation on precision and quality, knowing our hard work would one day carry us into a future of cutting-edge aerospace engineering. Now we got another bit of, looks like to be concept art. This is from the back again. Again, similar piping you can see along the engine here, the smooth lines and all that. So nothing too crazy to see on this here. We have a maneuverable might. Speed and agility go hand in hand with this craft's light chassis, making it a perfect choice for pilots skilled enough to weave through battlegrounds and deliver those essential hits. From what I've seen stats-wise, this ship is actually very, very fragile. I think it has a total of about 8,500 HP or so, and the vital HP on it is, I think, the body, and it's only, I want to say 1,700, so this is definitely going to be a pretty squishy ship. It is quite maneuverable, though. If I remember correctly, it's very comparable in its agility to the Anvil Arrow, which is a very nimble ship. So if you are a pretty good pilot, you might be able to just avoid shots, so you won't have too much trouble taking down your targets with this. We have a nice look at one of the bespoke Gatling guns. I am still slightly disappointed that they're bespoke ballistics again. I think it'd be really cool if they sold like a little kit for it. They gave you like bespoke laser Gatlings for maybe, you know, $5 or $10 or something. Or it'd be cool if you had the barrels here on the outside that shoot your ballistic rounds. If there was some other weapon on the inner part of the gun here, maybe like a laser cannon or something. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to try out the ship yet. Once the patch goes live, though, I'm definitely going to be flying it around, feeling it out, checking it out, and I will be letting all of you know my thoughts. I'm planning to do an actual ship review video, so I'll definitely go over all of that as part of that. We go down further, got a little look at the pilot seats and the dashboard, which again, this cockpit here does look very, very nice. You even have, I think that's a little, you know, ventilation fan or something, but you got the clock, you got your MFDs that it just all sits very neatly in its little package there. So looks very nice, and I'm excited to see it in game. And then here we have some of the key specifications. So For length, we are looking at 21.5 meters, a height or a width of 10.5 meters, and a height of 4.2. I'm pretty sure that puts it, I think, either very close to the size of the Gladius or maybe a little bit smaller, if I remember correctly. I'd have to check that again. But it should be somewhere around the size of the Gladius, so a little bit bigger than an Arrow, but not super big. So this should fit fine in a Polaris. You should be able to fit multiple of them, probably multiple in like the cargo bay if you wanted, multiple in the hangar. Should fit in the Idris fine. You might even, I might have to try it. You might be able to put it in the Argo hangar on the bottom of the Idris. But yeah, I don't think it'll fit in the Starlancer TAC with those dimensions, at least in the top hangar. Possibly in the back garage, there's a chance you might be able to squeeze it in there. We might have to try that. But I think it'll have a decent amount of ships that you could store this in. And then we also have those, of course, 2 size 4 retractable ballistic Gatlings, and you also have the bespoke missile racks that give you 8 size 1 missiles. So you do have a decent weapons package overall for the ship. All right, and now, hold on, let me zoom out a bit here. We have our paints. So here is the factory standard, of course, kind of a silver chrome look. There's a little bit of kind of bronze right here on this, I think, intake. And then some little highlights of red on the engine areas. Then we have Rosso, which is that all red one, except for in the back there, there's a little bit of, looks like dark gray and a tiny bit of blue accent. And I guess on the edges of these side engines, there's a little bit of, looks like kind of an orangey yellow. So that looks very nice. I did pick that paint up. We have Frost Camo, which is going to be more of a white with some darkish grays and a little bit of red highlights. That one does look pretty good. And next we have Sylvan Camo. This one's probably my least favorite. Yeah, I don't know. This one doesn't really speak to me, at least. I don't know. Maybe it does to someone else, but it's kind of a meh for me. But you got kind of a brownish with a little bit of orange on there, and then some different shades of green, and some more red and a little bit of yellow on that. Then we have Heatsink, which is looks like black with some kind of blue striping, some red and some yellow. Apparently, according to the page here, it says this paint is available for a limited time with a Warbond pledge. So you'd only get this paint if you bought this with all new money. I don't believe there is a Warbond CCU for this, unfortunately. So if you happen to buy this with all new money, you will get this paint included with that. And then last of all, we have Riftwalker, which I think is my favorite, which is the Concierge paint. This is pretty much all black with a slight bit of bronze and a little bit of blue and bronze in the back there, I believe. I love just all like the black paints. They're always super cool. So looking forward to trying some of these out in the game. But that is the different paint options for the Wolf. All right, and now we can take a look at our pledge options. So the ship itself for Warbond, which is going to be all new money, is coming in at $90. And again, if you're Concierge, when you purchase it with all new money, you get the ship, the Warbond exclusive skin, and the Concierge skin included. So a little bit of a bonus there. Otherwise, if you're just buying it normally, you'd get the ship and that other unique skin. That's just for the Warbond. And then for standalone, just with like store credit or something, which is what I did, because I'm not planning to keep it permanently, but I'll probably keep it for a little bit. It's $100. So I'd say definitely a more reasonable price for a new ship than, say, what we had with the RSI Meteor. I think the Meteor was way, way, way too much. So I'm glad to see that they put a more reasonable price on the Wolf. This puts it just a little bit above the Gladius, but below things like the Buccaneer, the Talon. I guess it's also right around the price of the Gladius Valiant as well, I guess. So I think it's a perfectly reasonable price for this ship. And then we can see our paints down here. We have a total paint pack if you're Concierge for $20.40. Again, that's going to include everything but the paint you get with the Warbond. If you just want that Riftwalker one, $7. A 3-paint pack with the everything but the Concierge and the Warbond skin, $15.12. $4.50 for the red one, $7 for that Sylvan Camo one, and $7 for the Frost Camo. So pretty reasonable paint prices. I picked up the Riftwalker one and the Rosso paint, so I'll definitely be rocking those, seeing how those look in game, and maybe eventually I might pick up the Frost camo one as well, because that one actually does look pretty nice. So let me know what you think on the paints down in the comments below. Do you have any thoughts on the price of the ship? Do you think it's well priced? Do you think it's a do you wish that they hadn't put the one paint on exclusivity with the Warbond deal? Do you think it's okay? I don't know. Let me know any thoughts you have on that down in the comments. But that is pretty much all on the store page for the Kruger L-21 Wolf. Again, this will be, I think technically you can fly it in the PTU at the moment. Again, by the time you see this video, that might not be available anymore and the patch might be live and then you can fly it there. But that is all for the ship on this page. So now let's take a brief look at the ship's Q&A. All right. So here is our Q&A. Could you introduce the Kruger brand for those unfamiliar with it? And for lore enthusiasts, are there any new developments or changes to Kruger's lore with this ship's release? Renowned for their manufacturing precision and expertise, Kruger Intergalactic is the UEE's premier custom parts manufacturer with long-standing contracts with RSI, Bering, and other industry titans. As their success grew, Kruger methodically expanded operations into weapons manufacturing before partnering with RSI on the P-Series snub fighters for the Constellation. The L-21 Wolf is the first ship independently developed and manufactured by the company and beautifully blends their unique design aesthetic with centuries of manufacturing expertise. To celebrate this exciting new era, Kruger updated their logo to use a sleek silver and white color scheme to embody the subtle elegance they strive for in their products. So I guess there was a little bit of a lore change there, but again, Kruger's just primarily in lore. They've made, I think, components and different little parts for a lot of ships with RSI and other companies as well. But now we get their own kind of unique full-on ship, and I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we start to get some more ships from them, maybe a medium fighter, you know, some other like a little luxury transportation ship, or not necessarily luxury, but like a high-end, nice, sort of like a counterpart to the 85X, like a little shuttle ship or something. So wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that in the future. Our next question is, does the Wolf have a quantum drive? Yes, it's the Kruger's first fully functional ship, not a snubcraft like their previous offerings, which is good. What unique design elements or features do the team want to highlight most on this new ship? Being the first ship independently developed by Kruger, we wanted to reintroduce the Kruger brand and use it as an excuse to explore the unique visuals of the manufacturer. We also wanted to push the elegance of what a combat ship is in our universe, show there is room for smooth and sleek lines on a deadly combat-focused ship, hark back to the 50s era of concept vehicles and design that we have lost over time, and mix clean, flowing lines with a very aggressive cockpit location, intimidating weapons, and a landing stance that echoes historic single-seater warplanes. And I think they hit all those check marks very, very well. I think it definitely reflects all of those things, and I'm excited to see again in the future maybe some other further iterations upon that art style and further pushing forward with the Kruger line. Next we have, does Kruger bring a unique ship UI style to the Wolf? The L-21 Wolf features an adapted version of the generic UI to fit its unique and elegant dashboard. However, a bespoke UI style for Kruger is in development. Cool. I know that they're still working on some for some of the other manufacturers. I think RSI still needs one technically. Origin, there's probably a few others. Mirai did get their own kind of styling a few months ago when I believe the Guardian MX came out. They brought that new styling in. So we'll have to see what we get once we get a Kruger style as well. Next we have, given Kruger's distinctive styling, with the cockpit positioned in the midsection, how does this placement impact pilot visibility? As the L-21 Wolf is a pure combat ship, player visibility was one of the key design goals when we set out with the early concepting. Originally, we had the cockpit sit further back on the body. However, we discovered that this did impact player visibility in a negative way. We iterated on the cockpit and the pilot's seating position early on to be confident that we could make a ship that flies as good as it looks. The pilot's combat experience was always high on the priority list. I think it looks great how it is. Again, I haven't flown it yet, so we'll have to see for sure. I do kind of like a little bit of a shake-up from other light fighters and most fighters of the cockpit just being right in the front there. So I think it looks good, and we'll see how it shapes up once the patch 4.3 goes live. Now, here is an interesting question that I don't think anyone was anticipating. I don't know if this means they just didn't quite have enough time to finish some of this or what entirely, but the next question is: the current release of the Wolf does not include accessible physicalized components. Are there plans to add them in a future update? Whilst the current release of the Wolf does not have accessible components, they are physicalized in the correct positions and will be accessible and physically swappable in a future patch. So what I've seen in some of the images we have of it, I can see the places where the component hatches are. And apparently the components are in there. Maybe they just ran out of time to finish up like the little animations or anything for how they want those to drop down or be accessible to you. I have heard that you are able to still access a gun rack and the storage. Those two are working and accessible, but just the main components are not quite yet. So it's kind of a disappointment, but it could be something pretty simple like how we got the Polaris Captain's Quarters pretty soon after it came out, or the refresh of the Guardian and Guardian QY's dashboard with the MFDs being moved to the styling of the Guardian MX. So we'll just have to see for sure, but I don't think we'll have to wait too long to see those be fully accessible. All right, and I think we have, well, there's quite a few more questions. We'll go through these pretty quick here. What kind of playstyle is the Wolf designed for? What roles or situation does it truly excel in? The L-21 Wolf is a dedicated light fighter built for close quarters engagements against other small craft. Its role centers on fast-paced dogfights where it leverages good maneuverability, high speed, and sharp acceleration. These qualities make it a dangerous threat, not only to ships in its own class, but also to those in adjacent roles, including medium and heavy fighters. I think especially once we get engineering in, those bespoke size 4 Gatlings, the bigger size weapons should have better armor penetration, so it could do a better job against bigger ships like the heavier fighters than something like a Gladius or like an Anvil Hawk or something would do. Where does the Wolf sit in the light fighter lineup compared to other options like the Anvil Arrow or Aegis Gladius? The L-21 Wolf is a light fighter that pushes the limits of maneuverability and acceleration, placing it among top contenders like the Arrow in terms of handling and size. However, compared to other light fighters in its class, such as the Gladius, the Wolf has a less resilient hull and higher emissions profile than its competitors. As a result, pilots will need to carefully manage the double size 1 shield HPs. That is nice that they gave it 2 size 1 shields, even though, because if it had 1 size 1 and that tiny amount of HP, that would really make it tough to do much without just getting instantly shot out of the sky. So I think having the second one will definitely help a decent amount. So again, we'll have to test it out a little bit once the patch is up. But good to see that it should be decently capable of fighting some of the light fighters and whatnot. Next we have, how does the Wolf perform against medium and heavy fighters? Compared to other classes, the L-21 Wolf offers significantly superior handling and a respectable amount of firepower to take on larger opponents, provided it doesn't stay exposed to enemy fire. Yeah, if you can stay like behind an F8 or some other of those fighters, or stay just out of the firing arc, you should do pretty well. But if like an F7 or an F8 gets its guns on you for more than probably like 2 or 3 seconds at the most, you're probably done for. So definitely we'll have to be very careful going up against those ships in this. Next we have, does it have any storage space or FPS weapon racks? Yes, the pilot has an external storage on the starboard side, located behind the wing, and a small weapons rack on the port side near the rear of the ship. Okay. Will the fin affect the ship's aerodynamics? Can it be toggled using the VTOL keybind? The fin in the initial release is tied to landing gear state only, but we're investigating player control options to allow it to be manually toggled in a future patch. It currently does not dynamically impact aerodynamic handling, though when control surfaces feature hits the PU, you can expect it to have an impact on atmospheric yaw ability. So yeah, maybe once we have control surfaces it'll help, but I don't know. I think maybe they could have made it, I think it's a little bit too protruding it looks a little bit off, which is the silhouette of the ship overall. So maybe they could have iterated on it a little bit more and made it look a little bit sleeker, more integrated into the ship. But hopefully they give us an option that we can toggle it in maybe the near future. We have, is there a way to manually retract or deploy the Wolf's weapons while in SCM? Yes, you're able to toggle the weapons manually with the hotkey, which triggers the retract and deploy animation. This is probably just powering weapons off and on. Kruger previously created a racing variant of the Merlin, the Archimedes. Are there any plans to develop a similar racing-focused variant of the Wolf? Currently, there are no plans to develop a racing variant. However, we would love one as we feel it fits within Kruger's brand identity, but we will have to see what happens in the future. I think we'll definitely get a racing variant of this eventually. Probably won't be this year. Maybe sometime next year we get it as like a patch ship or something. But I can definitely see a racing variant coming out for this at some point. But that is everything for the Q&A and the sales page. So that's going to do it for this video, going over all of the new information we have for the L-21 Wolf. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments. Have you picked it up? War bond, store credit? What do you think about the paints? Do you have a particular favorite? What do you think about the non-fully physicalized components? Well, like they're there, but you can't access them. Do you think it's just because they ran out of time, or do you think they should have held the ship back because they didn't have that done? I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on that and anything else you're thinking of leading up to 4.3. What are you most excited about? And I am excited to see all of you in the verse. But that's going to do it for this one, and I will see you next time.